Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. So, in between the end of the last video and the start of this one, like I said I went ahead and glued up this back panel. Now it was glued up with epoxy, so I had additional working time, and believe me, I think I needed all of it. It's still in clamps, because it is not completely cured up yet, and I'm gonna leave it sit till tomorrow. I have some help coming tomorrow to glue up the rest of the carcass. I don't know if they want to be on video or not, so I'm going to grab what I can, but I make no promises there. But before they get here, I have to get all the dados cut in the web frames. So it's probably going to be kind of a late night for me tonight. But let's move over to the table saw, and I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, I've got my dado stack in. I've got it set for about 3/16, and I've got the fence set to take either side. Now I'm going to be the first to admit I am not a fan of this cut because things can go pretty wonky. But it is a very shallow cut. I'm going to use 2 push sticks, and I'm going to concentrate on my force against the fence, and this one's just going to go down, and we're going to go ahead and push through this cut. Normally I do not recommend this cut. And the last thing I'm doing here is just coming through with the router plane and clean it up to make sure that these are all nice and bottomed out. All right, well there it is, all glued up. With the exception of the side panels, it really looks the same as it did in dry fit. I just had some people that didn't want to be on video, but they were willing to come and help, so I honored those wishes. Anyways, I'm going to get this stood up and move the camera and get my shop put back together a little bit here. And we'll start fitting and going after these vertical dividers next. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is I have to get these notches cut in the bottom so that these frames come out exactly the same as these frames. I've marked the locations. I've got a small trim router in here that just barely fits. I've set the depth. I'm just going to route this out and get close, clean it up with chisels, and then I'll start mounting those verticals. All right, so all the rest of the lumber is finally in. Mainly I was waiting for this 6/4 for the top, and I have some 4/4 so that I can grain match all the drawer fronts. I also rough milled all the parts for the drawers. Now, they're not planed yet or anything like that. They're just assigned to what drawer they're going to live in. So I want to get after this top and get this glued up first. So I'm just going to straight line cut with the track saw and then join it and get these 2 boards put together. I was able to get some 6/4 wide enough where I think I can do this top in just 2 boards. And then I'm going to go ahead and mill all of this material to a little bit overstock, and then I'm going to let it sit for a couple of days, and then I'll final mill it as I do each individual drawer. But there'll be Blum undermount soft glides, and I think we're going to do half blind dovetails with the Lee D4R, so I'll get that set up as well. But yeah, this top, this glue up is what I'm going to work on next. So I got the top all glued up. I was able to get away with 2 boards. It leaves me about 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches. I have not cut it to width yet. And the reason is I spent my morning today dialing in some edge profiles to see what my wife wanted on this piece. And I'll zoom in closer and show you. But before I cut this to length, I want to go ahead, there's a chamfer on the bottom of this that I want to run at the table saw. and I noticed just a little bit of chip out when I did this sample piece. So I'll wait to cut this to length till after I make this chamfer cut, and then it gets a little stepped, rounded profile on the front. Like I said, I'll show you that. Now, I did get a little bit of burning on here when I made this cut, and after this stuff's all in, I'll clean this. The burning is very light, but I will clean all that up when I clean up this profile. After I cut the ends, those chamfers on the bottom are going to have to be done with a hand plane, and I just don't have any other way to do that because this is not going to stand up in my shop on the table saw. So a hand plane it will be. So next up, I'll show you the close-up of this, and then we'll move over to the table saw and cut this chamfer. This will be a fun cut. Okay, so hopefully all of that shows up. It's got that little stepped profile in it, and then it's got the chamfer on the bottom. And that should make it look a little lighter in the top there. And, you know, that's the profile my wife wanted on this. Everything's pretty soft, so that's what we're going to go for. Okay, so I've used a small block plane from this direction just to break some of this back edge off so I don't get a bunch of tear out there. Then I'll go to a jack plane and we'll start finding this angle. And we'll just block sand that to finish it all off. So before I can cut the top profile, I need to get this sanded pretty close to finish sanded. So I'm starting with 80 grit, go through 120 all the way up to 180, and then I will cut this profile. And I may hit this with a 220 at the very end since it's the top. But yeah, I'm going to spend some time here getting the sanding done. Okay, I've got a small trim router set up to do this top profile. I'm sanded up to about 180, and I'll sand some more after I do this. I have to do this in 2 passes. It's just a trim router, so, and I'm trying to avoid the burning. So I'm going to do the bulk of it here on this first pass, and I'm going to lower the depth just a little bit and do one more pass. Okay, so hopefully that shows up well on the camera. It's got just a nice little lip all the way around, and it's got that soft under chamfer just to lighten that look just a little bit. It's not mounted yet, and I'll set it aside probably in my wife's quilting room, and we're going to get after some drawers next. So I got the D4R all set up. It's working great. Those dovetails look good, although I would have to change them a little bit for each drawer, but that's not a big deal. But between my wife and I, we've decided we're going to go a different direction on these, and we're going to go to dowels. Partially because it's just a little different look than other things that we have in the house, and also because I'm heading out for work again, and my time is really limited on this project, and I need to get it done. So I'm going to set the D4 aside, and I'm going to spend the rest of the evening making dowels and get after some drawers. One of the reasons I like the split top is because you can do stuff like this on it. So I've set the fence a 1/2 inch away from the blade, which is what the blums need for the clearance for the glides. And I'm going to make one pass on each one, and then I will slide the fence over just a little bit, test it in a piece of 1/4 inch ply until that fit is just right, but that'll give me the groove in the bottom. I'm going to do through cuts on all of them, even though it's going to leave a little gap in the front. It's going to get covered by a drawer front, and you're never going to see it. So next up, I'm ready to create the actual joints. And I want all of the dowels to line up, perfectly all the time. So I've created 3 little squares, and I put blue tape on them to label everything as it should be. So this one's marked the bottom, so that's right there. The top, right there. And this one is measured middle, measure from the top. So that comes right there, which actually just splits the difference between those two. I've set up the appropriate bit. In this case, it's 5/16. Excuse me, it's 3/8. And I've measured a center line on here where it goes. And I'm just going to try to drill as straight as I can. And then we'll get these glued in and let them cure up a little bit, and then we'll do the other side. Okay, so there's one down, 19 to go. I'll see you guys all in a few days. Okay, so there's all the drawer boxes. They're all in. They function really nice. I'm happy with those. And I need to get after the drawer fronts next so I can hopefully get this thing to finish before I have to take off to work. That's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. But in the next video, I'll show you what I'm doing on the drawer fronts because I think I have a plan for those. And I'll get all the sanding and stuff done off camera, and we'll get this thing to finish, which I think is going to be armor seal first, and then general finishes, high performance. But we'll get after that in the next video. Until then, guys, take care.